Hey everyone, thanks for joining. My name is Brennan. I'm the founder of Newaya, and I'll hop right into our presentation here. So, and thanks very much to Russ for giving us the opportunity to present. Russ and I had been chatting a little bit about the programs that we have, and he thought it might be prevalent for us to. Ooh, thanks guys for taking care of that. For us to share some of our programs with you all. So again, my name is Brennan. I'm the founder and CEO at Newaya, and there's my contact information. I'll put that up again at the end of the presentation for anybody that wants to reach out and get in touch. So moving into just a little bit of history. Newaya was founded in 2010 in Fort Collins, and we're still based here in Fort Collins. We provide trade-in programs and solutions to carriers, enterprise, and education markets. But really in the last couple of years, we focused a lot more on carriers. And so we've had a carrier trade-in program that we've run over the last 5 or 6 years, and we've been really enhancing it and adding more programs to it to make it more competitive and more attractive to all the folks at ACG. So in 2022, we'll process about 30,000 devices through our trade-in facility in Fort Collins. And we've got 8 employees. I've got 8 employees that work with me. Almost all of them at this point are past 2 years of working with me and working with Newaya. So a great group of folks. There are basically 2 distinct services that we provide at Newaya. I'm going to focus the bulk of today on our trade-in program because that's the special thing and our special sauce. But I also wanted to point out we've got this trade-in program, and we also do inventory liquidation, and that makes up a good bulk of our business as well. And so, I think we're probably similar to other trade-in providers in doing this, but we buy liquidated stock, overstock, damaged stock, end-of-life handsets and accessories. We buy that from the carriers that run our trade-in program in their stores, and we buy that those handsets and accessories and so forth from carriers and companies that don't run our trade-in program. So we're always open to receiving lists of devices, and we can get those lists quoted out and sent back to you with a quote and turn around very, very quickly. So that's a big part of our business, is processing devices for carriers and other companies that just want to sell off old stock or damaged stock, and we really do well with damaged stock. And then we've got a trade-in program that I'm going to be talking a lot about on the webinar today. So some of the carriers that many of you will recognize that run our trade-in program today, we've got Viero Wireless, Inland Cellular, Copper Valley Telecom, Docomo Pacific, and Silver Star Communications. I think we've got folks from Viero and Copper Valley on the call today. And I'll be sending all of you that have joined a case study that we just did with Viero. But each of these carriers we've had for at least a couple years. Viero and Inland Cellular have been with us for at least 4 or 5 years at this point. So we've got some existing long relationships with the carriers that are running this trade-in software in their stores. And feel free to reach out to any of these folks. We've worked with all of them very closely, and if you know representatives at either company, feel free to reach out and ask them about their opinion on doing business with us. So those are the carriers that run our trade-in program. As I mentioned, we also buy a lot of overstock. So these are some of the carriers that we buy overstock handsets from if they have their own existing trade-in program, or they just have repair stock, demo stock in their retail stores that they want to sell off. So we're very familiar with C Spire and GCI, and we've done some business with Verizon and Rogers as well directly. And so we've got a long history of buying a lot of trade-in devices and overstock handsets, and that's what we really specialize in. For anyone that wants to access our trade-in pricing, we keep a live register of trade-in pricing across all the popular models of devices that we buy. And that we think that's one of the things that sets us apart. So you can go to the link that I just shared there and pull up a full database of all of our pricing. We keep it up to date constantly. And so if you are looking for a trade-in price in a very quick manner, you can go there and check that out. That's kind of the pricing that we also publish it there so that our trade-in partners that are using our software can create marketing messages around the price that we're offering on different devices. So this is the price that's offered to the customer in our software. If you're going to sell us devices in bulk, you can know that you'll get a little bit above this. And we were actually just talking to Russ about publishing an ACG specific bulk trade-in price list for kind of that inventory liquidation and sell off stock. So that's one of the things that you can access. You don't have to log in or anything. You can go right to that page and see that there. So now kind of switching to focusing more about our trade-in program and our rather than the inventory liquidation and sell-off. I know for sure that anybody on this call with a carrier has heard many trade-in vendors and their pitches. There are many of us out there. And so what I wanted to talk about is the things that we've focused on in the last few years that make Newaya particularly unique to the other trade-in vendors out there. And I think when Russ was sharing the program, he talked about our 12-month lease. So that's going to be in here. And I also wanted to share about a program that we built in the last few years to lower the number of chargebacks the times we were charging back carriers for discrepancy devices that come to us in a different condition than we expected them. So I'll talk about that, the 12-month lease, a rewards program that we have for associates in the retail stores, and an online widget that we built that carriers can put on their website. So diving right into chargebacks, I'll open this up just for a second to see if anybody has any questions so far. I'll take a look at the chat. It looks like nothing so far, so I'll keep going. But basically, our chargeback program, we heard this over and over again from the carriers that we worked with that use our trade-in program in their stores. And maybe I'll just dial back a little bit to mention that the trade-in program that I'm describing is a piece of software that sits in your retail stores on all of your computers. It just runs in a browser, and it allows your retail associates to provide a trade-in value to your customers. So your customer comes in with an old device, they want to trade it in. Our program makes that possible. You can provide them a value. We do everything from providing the value to issuing the payment, and we can actually do that on a Newaya financed payment method, and then providing the shipping labels. So you can generate the shipping labels through our software and send the devices back to Newaya. All of that is under one roof in one piece of software. So when I'm talking now about these advantages for this trade-in program, that is the program I'm describing. This program where we will give you our software to run in your retail stores. We'll train your retail associates, and then you can have a trade-in, kind of a turnkey trade-in program to operate in all of your retail stores and on your website. And so these programs are not particularly unique to one vendor. We know we've got plenty of competitors out there. And so these things I'm talking about here, like the fewer chargebacks, are things we've done to try and differentiate ourselves from those competitors. And so we'd heard from the carriers that we work with and other carriers kind of time and time again that this model of chargebacks is a really frustrating piece of the business. So, and what a chargeback is when you have a trade-in come into your store and your rep identifies it as, maybe they say that it's fully functional. You get $100 value for the customer, and then you pay that out to the customer. But when you send the device back to your trade-in vendor, they say, actually, there's a crack in the glass. There's some issue with the device, and we can only pay you $20. And now you've got a discrepancy, a difference of $80, and that happens over and over and over again to the breaking point where carriers remove their trade-in program or just remove the trade-in vendor and bring it in-house because it's so frustrating to deal with that over and over again, and it really impacts the bottom line, right? So we looked at this model, and we were doing the same thing basically. Whenever we receive a device that did not meet the expectation, maybe the RSA said that it was fully functional, or they said that it had one problem and it actually had a much bigger problem or something like that, we were altering the price fully between our functional and our broken price, and giving the carrier our broken price whenever there was an issue. And we altered this about a year and a half ago or so to give carriers a huge break on these chargebacks, because we looked at our financials, we looked at our models, and we said, oh, wow, in a lot of these cases where we're charging a carrier back, because Newaya sells devices primarily in broken condition, a lot of trade-in devices are broken. So our customers, they know how to buy broken devices. And that's one of our assets, is that we've built our own software for cataloging these items and then reselling them. So when we resell phones, we sell them in exactly the right condition. So we say it's got a cracked screen, it's got broken Wi-Fi, it's got a bad digitizer, so doesn't record touching, it's got crack on the back, it's the rear camera is not working, et cetera, et cetera. So our customer base is really attuned to buying broken devices. And what we saw is, okay, when there's actually a crack in the screen, we might actually still be able to break even on that device. And so we're only charging back carriers now. The carrier partners that I showed you that we're working with, we only charge them back in instances where we're not able to break even on a device that came in and it was identified by the rep at the store incorrectly. So if they and kind of a practical example of that is, like, say they buy an iPhone 10, the working price is $150. The broken price that we're offering is $50 or something like that. And the rep says it's fully working, but we get it and it's got a cracked screen. Well, if we paid $150 for it, it's got a cracked screen. As long as we're able to sell it for $150, which for iPhones is actually pretty common that we're going to be able to break even on it, we don't charge the carrier back. So instead of $100, $100 chargeback, it's zero if we can break even. And we found that this actually has been led to dramatically fewer chargebacks. So last year we had, over all the trade-ins that we did, less than 0.5%, less than 0.25%, 0.17% chargebacks in 2021. And so what this means is, for that iPhone 10, instead of getting charged back the $100, we're just going to leave it at the $150. And I'll talk a little bit more about our associate rewards program in a bit. But basically, to make this, to even improve this, we do a rewards program with associates. And the one thing that we stick to is they don't get their reward if the device didn't match the right condition. But we don't charge the carrier back for the device unless we can't break even. And if we can't break even, we just charge back the amount that is representing the loss. So if we bought that iPhone 10 for $150 and we were only able to sell it for $140, we took a $10 loss. So we charge back the carrier $10 just to make ourselves whole. We don't really charge back for shipping and all the other costs that we incur. But anyways, hopefully that was a clear explanation of this chargeback program. So where other trade-in vendors are charging back just based on whether or not the device meets the criteria that the retail representative put together, our chargeback program is only applying when we cannot break even on a device and when it was already identified incorrectly by the associate. So that's the only instance in which we file a chargeback against the carrier. And so everyone understands this too, Newaya's program is we pay the customer, the $150 for the phone. Then we're paying the carrier 10% of the trade-in value on top at the end of the month. So we pay a 10% commission to the carrier, and usually our chargebacks come out of that amount anyways. But because of this way fewer chargeback scenario, the customers that we have on the call, Viero and Copper Valley can attest, as long as trade-ins are coming in, we're now almost always sending an amount of money. We're sending a payment to the carrier for that commission value rather than a bill, because we don't have as many chargebacks. So that's our chargeback process. The 12-month lease is the thing that I think is maybe the most exciting and new that we've modeled out and talked about, and we talked to Russ about this. So I'll dive right in. So a lot of the tier 1 carriers, you're seeing them move to a 30-month installment plan. And I mean, my perception behind that is that it's to lower the consumer's monthly payment as much as possible. And when we talk to the carriers we work with, this is what we hear constantly as the main gripe is, customers want to pay less and less, taxes and fees, accessories, etc. It all bundles into a high payment, and they just want to pay, they're thinking about this on how much can I pay on a monthly basis. So what we looked at this and said is, well, we could work with the carriers that we are working with already and bundle the trade-in value into the installments. So we did that, and at least one or two of the carriers that we're working with already does that. They take the trade-in value when a customer comes in with an iPhone 11, they're buying an iPhone 13. We take that trade-in value from the iPhone 11 and apply it to the installments, and that reduces the installments. But then we looked at it and said, this would be really interesting if we took the future value of that iPhone 13, because we've been doing this for a very long time. We have a general sense of what the trade-in values are going to be 12 months from the date of purchase. And so we can bundle that trade-in value and basically guarantee, most carriers are doing their own financing already anyways, but we can guarantee the carrier that phone, that iPhone 13, Newaya will pay X dollars for it in 12 months from when the customer purchases the device. And that way the carrier can not really bundle, but reduce the installment principal by that amount. And the clever thing that we did here was we said, well, kind of went back and forth and said, some customers are going to bring in a completely broken device, and we don't have any control of that unless they've got some kind of insurance plan or program. And we're not an insurance provider, so we can't enforce that. So we came up with a 2-tier system that I am really excited about. And basically what it is Newaya will guarantee the damaged price in a 12-month, future 12-month, based on all of our data and depreciation data that we've looked at. We will guarantee the damaged price to be able to kind of lower the installment plan principal and make the installment monthly payments much less. And that's, I think Russ mentioned this when I was explaining this to him on the phone. What could that be? On an $800 iPhone, 12 months from now, if it's broken, it could be $150. So it's not nothing, but it's not huge at the same time. And so that's, we can guarantee, if there's no insurance program on the phone, we can guarantee this this $100 to $150 value or so, maybe $200 value. But if we are assured that the phone's going to be functional, we can guarantee the fully functional value, which is probably almost double that value. And so we worked with our friends over at Gadget Guard. They've got a really neat program called Guard Plus, which is, if you buy a Gadget Guard screen protector, it's I think $10 extra to add. It depends on what level of plan you're adding, but you can add $150 to $250 worth of coverage, maybe even more now, to a device that you've got protected with a Gadget Guard screen protector. And this burst, so the SKU is only like $10, and it's a one-time thing. So you're not paying month to month for insurance. So for the carriers on the call who are already offering the Guard Plus coverage program, we worked with Gadget Guard to bundle that together in our 12-month lease so that the customer gets the future value of the device in fully functional condition. And they can even bring that device back at the end of their 12-month period broken. And as long as they fill out a claim with Gadget Guard, Newaya will settle things with Gadget Guard on the back end to make this work. And so what the customer gets up front, and I'm going to hop to my next slide here just to give you kind of a picture of how this 12-month lease works. So let's go through it. If they're going without the Gadget Guard Plus, they're coming in and they want to buy an iPhone 13, 128 gig. The base model is $799. The future trade-in value without the Guard Plus coverage, the amount that Newaya is guaranteeing the carrier it will pay for that device in 12 months from the purchase date, is about $160. The customer's got a 2-year-old device. They've got an iPhone 11, same thing, base model. We are currently buying these in the Newaya software for $250. So you reduce that, and then the customer has a down payment of $100. That, as it stands, is a $24 a month installment over a 12-month period, which I think is pretty reasonable. But you add the Gadget Guard Plus program, which is, again, it's not a monthly fee. It's just a $10 upfront fee to get this coverage on top of the screen protector that you bought and put on your phone. So if you do that, the thing that's really substantial here is what I have highlighted, which is the change in the trade-in value. So like I said, it's almost double, basically, because we know that we can work with Gadget Guard if the customer brings back a broken device and they file the claim to settle that up and get the value that we need to out of it, even if it's broken. But what that means is that from the beginning, when the customer arrives in your store and they want to buy a device, we can guarantee that price, so you can effectively reduce your installment principal by that price, because you know you're going to get it from us at the end of 12 months when the customer returns the device and you send it to us. So in that model, you've got the customer coming in buying an iPhone 13. We're looking at the right side of the screen now. They're getting almost $280 for their future trade-in value. Their current trade-in value is still worth $250, and then they're doing that same $100 down payment. And all of a sudden, their 12-month installment is $14.11 a month, which I think is just really substantial. The other carriers are offering programs that offer this kind of installment over a 30-month period. So the customer's paying quite a bit more. And by bundling trade-in into this model, we can get their installments down quite a bit. And some of the carriers that we've worked with are pretty creative and have already built the current trade-in value into their, obviously building that into the total down payment, or the total chunk that they're taking out of the installment principal. Ooh, Andrew says, could you tell us what happens if the customer doesn't return the device? Yeah, so this is where Newaya is not financing this amount. So if the customer decides not to return the device, it's in whatever contract you have with them, that if they keep it, they're going to get whatever trade-in value they get down the line. And so it's then on the carrier to collect from the customer. It probably makes sense to, if you're not going to keep it past the 12-month period, you've got to collect on this amount that you've kind of subsidied for them. But if they return it, they can also upgrade to the next device and do the same program again. So does that just answer the question for you, Andrew?
Yes, thank you.
Hey, Brennan, that could be like choppy customer experience, though, right? I mean, the way the carrier collects the funds, it's either from a charging the payment for the forward trade-in discount that you've already provided the customer.
Yeah, it could be really choppy. And I mean, that's, trying to avoid that chop is why we ended up talking to Gadget Guard and working with them to try and offer the full value for the device, because we thought the same thing. It's going to be very difficult to try and explain to the customer who's already got the device out in the field that, if they break it and bring it back, it's worth less if we've paid out if we've put the full amount of value. So it's hard to recover that. And I think that's a great point, Andrew. Yeah, you've got to be very clear with the customer that it's just like a lease. If they bring it back broken, hopefully they've got this coverage on it. But what's nice is we're just guaranteeing the damaged device value. But if they don't bring it back at all, you have to be very clear with them that this lease program, either you need to go and collect it, or you're just waiting out the trade-in value, and the trade-in value will be a little bit less. I think what we see carriers doing is already doing some amount of subsidy magic on the back end, and it's not like this is a perfect solution, but I think that's what this kind of requires too. If you either want the customer to have a clean and efficient experience, and you do some amount of subsidy magic, and here it's about that value that we're putting in for the future value of the device, which, as long as the customer someday brings back the device, it's still going to have a trade-in value, but it might not be what we guaranteed. So I think that's the, either you do a little bit of subsidy magic, and the customer has this kind of consistent experience, or you don't, and you really charge them back and you apply the cost to their account in their billing. And you could further that out as another installment or something like that, I think, to lessen the blow. But if they want to keep their device, they're keeping the car in the lease, or they're keeping the device that they've leased, right?
But the carrier's still out the funds. I mean, the average, how long are people typically holding on to their iPhones these days, Brendan?
I think it's getting longer. I think in general it's getting longer because there aren't as many technology upgrades as there certainly were before. But I think that it once really modeled the 2-year commitment plan, and it probably 10 years ago, and then it probably got a little bit quicker than 2 years as things were really exciting in the height of the early iPhone and Samsung advancements. And then I think now we're seeing things mellow out a little bit, which is what I believe is why the tier 1 carriers can pitch a program with 30 months. I mean, 30 months is a long time. It's a long time to have one phone. I don't believe most people are keeping their phone that long, but it allows them to get this installment plan rate way down. So
Newaya is not providing any. They're not providing the $139 or whatever, the $159 to the carrier. You're just saying, I'll pay you that if they bring it back.
Correct. That's a guaranteed price that Newaya is willing to pay the carrier once we receive the device. And to be completely transparent, Newaya's only business model here is on the resale of these devices. We don't charge carriers for the use of this program. We don't charge carriers for the customization and the trying to fit the program to their business models. We just make money when we receive these devices that we've purchased through the trade-in program, and we resell them to our customers. So yeah, we do not have a financing model to actually provide that value to the carrier, but we've done this for long enough that we will guarantee that value as long as the customer comes in and returns the device at that 12-month mark.
Thanks, Brennan.
Yeah, absolutely. And thanks for the questions, Andrew. Anybody else have any other questions about that? All right. Well, and actually, I just want to make sure, Russ, was that a clear enough explanation of the lease program that, I know that there were some confusing elements when you and I had talked about it initially.
No, I think as long as everyone understands that and they haven't had any more questions, I think that was very clear.
Great. All right. Well, we'll move right along. So another thing that we've been doing for quite a while now that I think is unique to Newaya, though, and not offered by other trade-in providers, is this. The fact of any retail sales operation is it's all about the representatives that are selling the program. If you don't have the buy-in from the associates that are in the retail stores, you don't have a program. And we've seen this with carriers that have used the program, but they've installed it, but they haven't really pushed it on the reps or really got the reps through a lot of training and built it into other programs that they sell at the and are pushing at the retail level, it doesn't get adopted as much. And so what we did to kind of address that and to tie the rep's incentive basically to tracking the device correctly, testing it correctly, making sure that it's the right model when they put it into the Newaya software, is we pay a $5 reward for every trade-in that has value that an RSA identifies and tests correctly when they are receiving it at the point of trade-in in a retail store. So we do this by tracking, we track all these devices as they come back to our office. We're testing them and seeing whether or not the device matched what the RSA said. And as long as it matches, we're kind of incrementing this. It's built into our software. We're incrementing this value, and then at the end of every month, we pay out this $5 for each device. So if a rep takes in 20 devices in a month, and they all match the correct model and the correct condition, then the rep gets $100, which is not a tremendous amount of money for a program, but we saw it make a real difference for these retail reps. And we've done it in a couple of different ways. So we've got a program that we built into our software that can distribute out digital debit cards that get emailed to the reps. So every month, a new digital debit card with their reward value gets emailed to the reps directly from Newaya. So if the carrier doesn't want to manage this program, Newaya can manage it by doing that automatically. Or we've seen some of the carriers that we worked with take that amount as a lump sum, and instead of paying it out directly to the reps, we'll just pay it to the carrier as a lump sum, and they use it to run their internal leaderboards basically for whoever's the highest grossing sales rep, or the whatever metrics you're tracking, whichever reps are at the top of your key metrics. The carriers we work with will just take that money and go buy prizes basically, and so they use it to fuel their internal incentive programs, and that's been really successful for us. So that program, the case study that I'm going to send you all with that we've done with Viero has shown that over the last 3.5 years or so, that program has generated over $160,000 in rewards for Viero reps that I know Luke on the call uses to go out and buy AirPods and MacBooks and phones and stuff like that these reps get really excited about, and it actually pushes them to utilize the program and to understand these ways to sell the program to their customers, and to how the program fits into the larger sales picture that Viero wants to use and leverage. So yeah, that's how this program works. And then at the end of every month, we send a report, a very, very thorough report to the carriers we work with of all the trade-ins that we get. But we send a specific report that has all of these discrepancies. So the whole point here of this rewards program was to reduce the amount of discrepancies where a rep missed that a phone had a crack in the glass, or that the camera didn't work, or some of the buttons didn't work, so forth, or doesn't turn on. We get devices that don't turn on, and they're supposed to. So that was the point of this program. And so at the end of the month, we also send a discrepancy report that has pictures of all the devices that didn't quite meet our, the terms that the rep had selected when they checked in the phone. So basically, this is a huge feedback loop that we have established to make it much, much clearer to reps what we are looking for and how things are supposed to work. And Andrew raised his hand. Yeah, Andrew.
Hey, Brennan. Sorry. Quick on the hand raise. Could you describe your grading process? Is it complex? Is that why there's a need for this discrepancy padding?
Yeah. So we have a we have a 2-tier pricing model, and we've got a functional price and a broken price. But we asked the rep to go through about 8 questions about the device when they're going through and determining if they've said that it's functional. We're asking them to go through these 8 questions, and they ask about: do the cameras work? Do the buttons work? Does the device turn on when you plug it in? Does it charge? And so forth. And so we see a whole gamut of different responses to these questions, and we see sometimes reps just need to go through the process fast and they just mark a device as damaged. But our functional pricing for devices is pretty high, and our damage pricing is a safeguard that says, okay, basically anything can be wrong with this phone, and we're taking it, and we're still going to be able to break even on it. So the rep has to go through about 8 questions of functional testing. It probably takes realistically 2 to 3 minutes to go through that amount of testing on the device to determine whether or not it meets our functional or non-functional grading. Does that make
That's
sense?
great. Thanks for that. Do you have any information or like a feedback loop directly to the reps?
Yeah, so I mean, we send this information. It's funny, we do send the financials, the rep rewards, the value, the dollars to the reps to their email, but we also try to be careful about contacting reps directly. We know some carriers like that or are okay with that, some carriers are not. So we send this bulk report basically in a CSV and a PDF format to all of our kind of points of contact at a carrier at the end of the month. And they can then distribute that out to their reps to say, here's how many you did correctly, here's how many you didn't. And we send a PDF that has pictures and details on each page. It's got a full size page picture of the device that the rep traded in. And so we don't send those directly to the reps today because we just didn't want to cross any lines, but we certainly could build that out. I don't think that wouldn't be impossible. But today we send it to the points of contact that we have, which is usually, the retail director or retail manager at the carrier, and then they're working with the reps, or their managers are working with their reps to resolve any of those issues. Does that make sense? Yeah, my pleasure. So I think that pretty accurately covers our rewards program, something that we do that I think is pretty unique to Newaya. The last piece is an online widget, and Newaya's got this really unique online widget that you can place on so we can place it on your carrier website, or if you've got an e-commerce site, you can place it on an e-commerce site with a very, very simple code to drop it in. We can match all of the styling and the branding to your carrier branding. We've got some Newaya branding on it, but we can remove that. We've done that for a customer. And what this widget does is it allows your customers, the carrier's customers, to get a trade-in quote. And we've got kind of two versions of this widget. One of them, when the customer gets their trade-in quote, it will direct them to your store locator. So it'll point them to the right store to go bring the trade-in device in and trade it in at the point of the retail location. But we work with some carriers who are, more spread out or more rural, and they actually wanted a way for the customers to get a shipping label to send the device directly into Newaya, so that the customer's not tasked with taking the device to a retail store if they're particularly rural. And so we built that out as well. So our widget, has these two functionalities. One is in both instances, the customer can get a quote for their trade-in device. And with one, it will direct them to one of your retail stores so that they can bring in that device, and then an associate can guide them through the trade-in process. The other version of this is they can get a quote for their device, and then it will immediately provide them a shipping label that they can ship the device over to Newaya. And then that device gets processed by Newaya, and ultimately the device is still in the carrier's reporting at the end of the month, and we're still paying a 10% commission to the carriers that we typically pay for those devices that are generated and shipped to us through this widget. So that's the gist of it. I think it's pretty simple, but very customizable, and we've been pretty proud of how this can end up matching and looking very similar to the carrier's existing branding. The screenshot that I've got showing is the one that's on Inland's site. You can go and find it right now. We've put it in the blue color that they use, and so we think it looks nice and native on their site. So,
hey Brennan,
yeah,
is this going to be a swivel chair experience, or is this an iframe technology?
So this is an iframe, so it's just embedded right into the carrier site. Our software, as I mentioned, is the retail software is a web app. So that is a swivel chair experience between the point of sale system and using the Newaya software to take in a trade-in device. But our online widget for customers to use, that's for the front end, for the carrier's customer, is not a swivel chair, it's an iframe.
So is the website pretty responsive? Is there any lag depending on which device you're using?
There shouldn't be. No, I mean we build. We're developers at heart, and some of this technology I built the original versions of, but we try to keep it pretty quick. We run our it might be a little bit technical speak, but we run our sites on Heroku, which is a very fast web server, and we monitor this stuff really, really closely, because this is one of our primary assets, is this all the trade-in software that we provide carriers in this program. So we try and keep it running pretty quick.
Cool. Thank you.
Yeah, and I think I haven't really talked about that very much on this webinar, but maybe one thing that's worth bringing up is another advantage to Newaya is we're a small company of really passionate group of people here in Northern Colorado that we geek out a lot about phones. And I think that there are some things that we can't do because we're not a large corporation, but there are some things that we can do better because we're a small group. And I think one of those is like, if anything goes wrong with our site, or if a retail rep is not able to do something, they have a live chat button that goes directly to my and my operations manager's computers. So we're the folks that built these programs and this software, and we're the ones that provide customer service for it, because we honestly don't get that many complaints or concerns on a daily basis. So we're able to keep track of things, and we want to. So when your retail store managers or your retail associates have a problem, they're going to be contacting the founder and the operations manager at Newaya in live chat to be able to diagnose and resolve the problem. And that's another piece of this puzzle, is the customization that we've done. These different programs that we've built out, they've been because we've been working very closely with the carrier partners that we have. And again, we're not a huge organization, but we're able to be more nimble and flexible because we are smaller. And that's been really fun. I've really enjoyed that journey, and I'm still enjoying it today. So this is one of my last slides. Here is a comment from Luke Dilley at Viero. Luke is a great example, I think, of he's a sales operations director, but he manages all of the retail stores, and Luke really put our program into the retail stores and invested it into the sales model at Viero, and has leveraged the program really, really well. And so we've worked super closely with Luke, and he's got some kind words to say about us. And you'll see more from him and from Cora Linker at Viero in our case study that we did with them, that I'll send you all shortly here. But that's it for me, everyone. Thanks so much for the time. This has been it's been a pleasure to meet some of you and chat about Newaya. Any questions?
Yeah, Brennan, quick question for you. As you look towards the process of an RSA looking at a device and having to go through that 2 to 3 minute checklist, if you will, have you considered any chance of doing that via software instead?
Yeah, we have, and we've actually used and tested a lot of the different diagnostic software that exists. So there are probably more than 10 providers of diagnostic software right now. One of the challenges with diagnostic software is it works great on iPhones, because iPhones are really popular in the kind of the wholesale device resale space. It doesn't work that great on Android. In Android, just to get technical with you all, you've got to go in and enable the debugging mode in Android to get the device to work. And so there are some caveats to those. I think the software is getting better, but there are honestly just a decent number of caveats. And then the other piece is the computer that the rep is using at that location it's got to be using the desktop software that has all the right cables to plug in those devices. So the thing that we've kind of come back to time and time again with testing the device using diagnostic software is it ends up being a more frustrating experience depending on the model of device. But another thing, just transparently, that I'll tell everyone is we've got a recycle program through our trade-in software that allows a RSA to take any device whatsoever. And so we work, for example, with Viero on this program, where Viero offers a bare minimum trade-in value that they subsidize above. If you're trading in an old flip phone, Newaya cannot pay for that flip phone, but we will take it back and we'll process it through our trade-in software. So there are a lot of phones that we're seeing through this software that we certainly would not support through a diagnostic software testing regimen. But we want the software to be able to allow associates to process those devices very quickly, and so they can answer the quick questions about them. And so in short, Russ, I think we've continued to choose the checklist of what's wrong with this device and what are the cosmetics and the functionalities, what condition are they in, over the diagnostic software, just because of that, just because of the speed of retail and the speed that you need in retail. But it's certainly, something that we're keeping watching and definitely want to see better and better software come out. So once that's the case, I'm excited about it for sure.
Great, thank you.
Oh, great. Thanks, Will, for getting back to Ashley. Perfect. Well, yeah, if nobody has any other questions, thanks so much for coming. I will follow up again via email with a link to our pricing that's in the chat right now as well, and that case study that we just did with Viero. So if you've got any questions, feel free to reach out to me via email. You can reply to that email that I send. And Russ, hopefully some folks are interested, and we can do more and more with ACG.
Sounds good. Thank you very much for putting this together, and thanks for everybody for attending.
Yeah, thanks everyone.